Welcome back. President Trump agreeing to meet with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries this upcoming Thursday. Lawmakers are facing a September 30th deadline to prevent a government shutdown. That's next Tuesday. Both Democrats sent a letter Saturday urging the president to work with them and address what they claim is a Republican health care crisis. On Friday, the Senate rejected both the House's short-term government funding bill and the Democrats' counteroffer. Joining me now is New York Congressman Mike Lawler, a member of the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Where's this going? Give us an update.
Well, you know, Maria, Republicans passed a clean CR, which is something that both Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries continually lectured America about during Joe Biden's administration. They said that we could not shut the government down, that it would have devastating impact on Americans, that it would cut off Social Security and veterans benefits. And yet now, today, they are willing to shut the government down unless they get what they want, which is hundreds of billions of dollars in increased federal spending. And they show no sign of recognizing that shutting down the government would have a negative impact on the economy and Americans, which they lectured us about just a few years ago. So we'll see how this meeting goes. Chuck Schumer, of course, will try to grandstand and try to, hold up the president for increased spending. But the bottom line is we need to keep the government open. And it's why I voted when Joe Biden was president and when Donald Trump was president to keep the government funded. This is a short-term CR. We're talking about roughly 2 months so that we can finalize appropriations negotiations. What Democrats should be doing is keeping the government open so that we can finish our work on the appropriations for fiscal year 26.
So what specifically are they fighting about? Because I know that there are the expiring affordable care, Obamacare subsidies for 22 million Americans, $30 billion a year. Is that the political fight here over putting those subsidies that you all released during COVID back in?
Well, of course, they've tried to message this about health care and the fact that these Obamacare subsidies are about to expire. But these were put in place during COVID, understandably, to help Americans through a very difficult time. They are slated to expire at the end of this year. I and a number of my colleagues have signed on to legislation to extend them for 1 year so that we can appropriately phase them out and Americans don't face sticker shock on increased premiums. But there's a way to get there, and I think that can and should be negotiated as part of the appropriations package that will come due in November, including the fact that you can put an income cap on this so that people who are making, $800,000 a year are not getting a subsidy from the American taxpayer to purchase health care on the open market. So there's a lot that can be done here and should be done. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of that legislation to extend this. But we need to have a negotiation and not Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries grandstanding to get there.
Yeah.
Maria, they're both from New York, and Tom DiNapoli, the New York comptroller, just came out with a report that New York spent $1.2 billion paying for health care premiums on Medicaid for non-New York State residents. $1.2 billion wasted on non-New York State residents. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have said nothing about it, haven't raised one question as to how it's possible that $1.2 billion in taxpayer money was spent on non-New York State residents.
That's a great point. And, I have been saying many times that you can't come out and say you want to get back to pre-COVID spending and you really want to fix the situation with $37 trillion in debt. And then in the next day, come out and say, no, we also want the subsidies that we were giving out during COVID to come back into play. So I get you. When you're talking about New York, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said that his decision to endorse New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani is, quote, coming sooner rather than later. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer still has not made up his mind about the Democrat socialist, but New Yorkers have a choice now between 4 candidates when they head to the polls on November 4th. Who will you be supporting, Congressman?
Well, I've already endorsed Curtis Sliwa. I think when you look at the choices, Eric Adams obviously has failed as mayor. And Andrew Cuomo is directly responsible for so many of the problems facing New York State, from cashless bail to New York sanctuary state policies to shutting down Indian Point and creating an energy crisis where utility rates have skyrocketed, tripling over the last few years. So many of the problems facing New York were at his hands. And so I think Curtis is the only choice given this field. Zohran Mamdani obviously is not a choice when you look at his socialist policies. He calls himself a democratic socialist. He's talking about ending private property ownership. He wants to defund the police, shut down prisons, legalize prostitution and sex work in New York. These are not serious policies. And the fact that you have Kathy Hochul already on record endorsing an avowed socialist, the fact that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer will not come out and say that they don't support him.
Yeah.
And in fact, they're betwixt and between, because the fact is AOC is coming for Schumer in 2028, and Hakeem Jeffries' district is right in the heart of Brooklyn, and Brooklyn has moved in many ways to the progressive left.
Yeah.
And so they're both petrified of a primary. So I would venture an endorsement is coming pretty soon.
Well, look, I mean, we've had Curtis Sliwa on the program. He sounded very practical in terms of what he wants to do. He certainly aligned with many of your values. He's a Republican. You're a Republican. You've supported him. But many of your colleagues have not. And I wondered, I mean, are the Republicans in Congress willing to just sacrifice New York? Because they think if Mamdani wins, then they'll have a better shot in the 2026 election. I spoke with your colleague, Nick Langworthy, on this very point. Watch this. Let's face it, there is a Republican in the race. It's Curtis Sliwa. Okay, are you going to support Curtis Sliwa? Are you going to get behind the Republican in this race?
Listen, I live in Buffalo, New York. No one cares what I think about the New York City mayor's race in the Republican primary.
Why don't you endorse the Republican in the race?
Curtis Sliwa has recruited himself into this race. I don't think he's got a credible path forward. I think all the candidates that don't have a credible path forward need to just really do some self-reflection. Do they care about the city, or do they care about their own vanity projects?
Well, can you say he doesn't care about the city? He founded the Guardian Angels. He cares about crime. He's been on this program.
He's done some amazing things, Maria.
Yep.
He's done some amazing things, but he's not going to be the next mayor in New York.
Your reaction, Congressman?
Look, when you look at the field, obviously a four-way race makes it very difficult in a city that has become increasingly Democratic from when Mike Bloomberg last won the mayoralty in 2009. But the fact is, Curtis Sliwa is the Republican nominee. He will get a good base of support. And so long as the other candidates are in the race, there's no reason for him to get out of the way. The fact is, when you look at the challenges facing New York City, Zohran Mamdani's mayoralty, while it may be good for Republicans politically and it may be good in districts like mine, is a disaster for New York City. And I do not want to see him as mayor. I served with him in the state legislature. The policies that he supports, the policies that he will try to implement as mayor will lead to a mass exodus out of New York. That is not good for New York. That is not good for my constituents. That is not good for the taxpayers of New York. So, no, I don't want to see him as mayor. I support Curtis. And, frankly, yeah, Eric Adams should get out of the race. And I'm sorry, Andrew Cuomo is not a solution. Andrew Cuomo is directly responsible for so many of the problems that New York has faced over this past decade. And I'm sorry, I just think good conscience could never support Andrew Cuomo for anything.
And he would argue that, look, he was governor. He knows the way things work. He is a New Yorker and loves New York City and will be the next mayor.
Look, if that were the case, he would have won the Democratic primary. But the fact is that he did not run a good campaign. He did not run a good race. He was as arrogant in this race as he was when he was governor. He thought he was entitled to it and thought just by virtue of his last name that voters were going to support him. Yeah. But I'll give Zohran Mamdani this. He actually offered plans. He actually offered a vision to Democratic primary voters, and he won. I don't agree with that vision, and I think, broadly speaking, general election voters don't actually agree with his policies. But he's very charismatic. And when you juxtapose that to Cuomo, it's not even close.
Well, it's an incredible moment in time. We will see how this plays out. Great to talk with you about it, Congressman. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria.
All right, New York Congressman Mike Lawler.